everybody. Welcome back to Films and Fermentation. This is episode 44, Villains We Root For. In this episode, we are going to be discussing those bad guys who are portrayed as good guys. We're not necessarily talking about villains that we like, villains that are our favorite villains. We're not talking about the popular film villains. We're talking about characters who we pull for as we watch the film. We cheer for them. We want them to win. But when you really think about it and you really break it down, you're cheering for the wrong side. I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
And welcome again to Films of Fermentation. Drop us a line at filmsoffermentation@gmail.com or any of our social media sites. Let's get right into this with This Day in Film History.
This Day in Film History in 1966, Batman starring Adam West as Batman, Burt Ward as Robin, and Cesar Romero as the Joker debuted on ABC.
Still one of the greatest Batman franchises of all time. I love the old Adam West Batman. I remember.
Holy smack, Batman!
when I was a kid, I mean, you know, this came out in 1966. I was born in '77, so when I watched it, it was syndicated. You know.
Yeah.
But it came on almost every day. I think it was after school. I would come home, run home, and watch it. And I loved everything about it. I loved how campy it was. I loved the bang, pow, pop, boom stuff that would pop up on the screen when they were fighting. I love the ridiculous gadgets. And then all the villains are classic in that series.
I was going to say, I don't remember them having any other villains than the main villains, like the Riddler, Catwoman, Penguin, Joker.
Oh,
I don't remember them.
Did
they have the
ones.
other ones?
They had some like one-offs here and there. Like they had King Tut. I remember one episode. They had the guy that like messes with the time or something like that with the clocks. He was in like one.
The Clock King.
Yeah, he was like one episode. They had a few guys that were like one-offs. They never had the Scarecrow on there though.
No,
that I remember.
Okay.
But the main ones,
Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze. I think there was maybe one episode with like a Mr. Freeze type character. I don't remember too well, but I mean the main ones were Cesar Romero as the Joker, Frank Gorshin as the Riddler. Then you had Frank Gorshin was the Riddler, and then he left, and John Astin took it over. He was the guy that played Gomez Addams in the Addams Family. He took over for the Joker for a short time. He's also the father of Sean Astin from Lord of the Rings.
The Joker or the Riddler?
The Riddler.
Okay.
And then Frank Gorshin came back for the Batman movie that they made in 1969, I think it was. You had Burgess Meredith as the Penguin. And three different Catwomen.
Yep.
Julie Newmar was the original one.
Mm-hmm.
Then they had Eartha Kitt for a while. And then there was a third actress, Lee Merriweather, who was in the film, the Batman the movie.
Which are all very debatable.
Oh, I loved Julie Newmar, the original one. Like she was great. Oh yeah, I love everything about the original Batman thing. Sliding down the pole when they get to the bottom, they're in their costumes.
Looking up the wall.
Yeah, the wall, climbing the wall, and having a guest star pop out at some point. They had a Christmas special once, so Santa Claus popped out of the window to talk to him at one point. But my favorite is in the movie, Batman the movie. There's two scenes that are ridiculous, and I love
shark
them.
repellent.
There's the shark repellent scene, yeah, where he's got a shark hanging off of his leg, and he turns to Robin, and he's like, "Robin, quick, give me the bat shark repellents." And then he sprays the shark, and the shark falls off his leg. And the other one is when he has the bomb that he has to get rid of, and it's a giant round bomb with like the wick sticking out the top.
Right.
And he's running around with it over his head like this, and just running in all different directions and looking for somewhere to throw it. And everywhere he goes to throw it, there's something there that he can't. Like there's a table full of nuns, and then there's a bunch of kids playing on the playground.
And a cat walking down the street.
Yeah. So freaking campy, man. And then you look at the commercial for the Batman movie coming out in May. Such a totally different animal.
It is.
What is your fun drink fact for tonight?
My fun drink fact is Namibia has the second highest per capita beer consumption in the world behind the Czech Republic. The southern African nation was colonized by Germany in the late 1800s, and German love for beer left its mark. On average, each Namibian drinks 108 liters of beer per year.
And the only reason you like that fact is because it's German influence that leads to the Namibians loving
well,
their beer.
I mean, second highest per capita. Come on. In Africa.
In Africa, yeah. 108 liters a year. See, we're Americans. We don't use that metric system.
Well, that'd be like having...
So 108 liters in gallons would be 28 gallons of beer a year. I think the three of us can handle it.
Yeah, I could do that. Yeah.
That's
I
like,
could
that's
definitely
like
do
drinking
that.
54 2-liter bottles of soda a year.
I think between the three of us, we probably did that in a month.
Yeah, well, you know.
So let's talk about our drinks for this evening. I'm going to go with Kevin first since he was running for a drink before we started the show.
I forgot I needed a beverage, and I went to my
You forgot the
Ice
name of the
box
show was
outside.
Films
Yeah.
and Fermentation.
Wow.
Co-host of Films and Fermentation forgot his fermented drink. So what do we got?
So I'm drinking from Flying Dog, The Truth Imperial IPA. Where are you? There you go. The Truth Imperial IPA.
I want the truth.
I want the truth. It's all about the politicians. I do solemnly swear.
I am
This
up to no
is
good.
yeah, that I'm up to no good. This is 8.7% alcohol by volume. Produced at Flying Dog, which I think is Frederick, Maryland. So it's a Maryland-based beer.
I've had some Flying Dog beverages before. I've never had that one.
I think I've had Raging Bitch before, and it never really,
I've had that one, yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm not quite sure. I'm probably getting this one wrong. It's probably Dogfish Head. Namaste. Namaste. Is that Dogfish Head? Or...
I think, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe it was King Midas. I don't know. One of the two.
What do you got, Mike?
I am drinking a Jim Beam Vanilla on the rocks.
Jim Beam Vanilla on the rocks. So I tried to go theme tonight somehow. So I'm kind of going out on a limb for my theme. So I decided to drink one of my favorite drinks that I've had on the show before a while back and was pretty fucked up by the end of the episode because this is 19% alcohol by volume.
Shit.
It is one of the strongest wines on the market. It's called Jersey Devil Fort. So I figured he's a much maligned villain, but much sought after, the Jersey Devil. But to make it even better, I'm going to drink it out of my massive Darth Vader mug. We're going to fill that sumbitch up. I already drank half of it, so.
Before the show?
Mm-hmm.
While at school?
I'm working from home tomorrow. So I'm ready to go. So that takes us to our main segment here. Our main segment is we are talking about villains that we root for. And as I said in the show open, we're not talking about villains that we just like, like Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs. Awesome villain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You skipped the notes from last show.
I skipped the notes from last show.
Yeah.
All right, let's edit it and go back.
Rewind.
Yeah, we're not live. Oh, for live, I joined a Facebook group for podcasters who use the Anchor app.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked anybody if they do a live podcast, what do they use? And someone suggested doing Facebook Live.
Okay.
And they said that usually it works pretty well because you don't have to download any software for it. It's just Facebook.
Okay.
So it's something I might think about for later. Yeah. So for notes from last show, we were worried about spoilers. And I said, I don't think we have to really worry about the spoilers because it's been out for a while now. But honestly, YouTube has done a better job of spoiling the film than we did, Spider-Man No Way Home.
So
in the last few days, I have seen more YouTube videos, either actual videos or videos like people took when they were in the movie theater of all the surprise scenes.
Oh, geez.
Just being posted on YouTube randomly. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad we saw it when we did, because
Yeah.
it's reached that point now where people just can't wait to spoil it for people. And Mike's wife suggested we talked about our favorite Spider-Man, but what about our favorite Spider-Man love interests?
Yeah. Because we're guys and we don't talk about stuff like that.
I mean, I don't really care about the love interest part of it. Like if I'm going to talk about it, I'll talk about the actresses.
Yeah.
Like I love Emma Stone as an actress to begin with. Like I think she's great. So I liked her, Gwen Stacy. Even though I wasn't a big fan of the Andrew Garfield films, I thought she was pretty good. She was better, like you said, Kevin, the pre-show than Bryce Dallas Howard in Spider-Man 3
Right.
as Gwen Stacy with Tobey Maguire. But
Yeah.
that movie was such a shit show to begin with. Like you can't
Nothing
really
could
say
help.
like she had a chance,
No, that's true.
Then your original
very
is
true.
Kirsten Dunst as
Yep.
MJ and the
Mhm.
Tobey Maguire. I liked her. I thought she was pretty good.
It's good.
I mean, her thing was that whole iconic upside down kiss scene.
True.
And then you have Zendaya. I like Zendaya. Like I said in the last show, that she's grown on me as the character. Because with each film, she's been given a little bit more to do, and it's kind of like progressed.
I find
Right.
her different from the others. She's not the damsel in distress type.
Not
No.
She's has her moments of like being saved.
But then again, Emma
But she's-
Stone as Gwen Stacy wasn't really the damsel in distress. She was willing to help and in some ways was smarter than Peter Parker.
Because she was also the daughter of the police commissioner, so she kind of had that in her blood.
Right.
Mhm.
And did she work at the Oscorp place too? Like
She did.
She was like a scientist as well. But yeah, the Zendaya version of it is like you said, like even though she has moments where she's being saved, there's just as many moments where she's involved as well and helping out.
Right.
Hey, Scooby Doo that shit.
Scooby Doo that shit with the friend who's the guy in the chair. I just noticed, like, for anybody listening out there, if you need a visual of what's going on right now, you should really watch our YouTube edit of the podcast where you can see the size of the mug I'm drinking out of, and how it completely covers my face as I'm drinking.
I dressed for the show.
This is your mug, Mike, the one you.
Yeah, I know.
On the other side, it says, "I prefer my coffee on the dark side." I haven't drank coffee out of this yet. I'm not sure my heart can take it. I normally only drink water out of it, but all right. So I also have here that I watched Ghostbusters Afterlife finally.
How was it?
It was good. It was really, really good. It was.
Which service did you use?
There was finally a good feed on Cinema HD.
Okay.
So I was able to watch it on there because I think right now it's still on HBO Max, maybe.
Is it?
I think it
I
might
think
be.
to
I don't
buy.
know.
I think to
Yeah,
buy.
I don't have HBO Max, so I couldn't really watch it that way anyway.
I mean, I have it. I didn't know it was there. I was going to order it from what's it called? Voodoo? VUDU?
Yeah, Voodoo has it. I think you can order it off maybe Prime or something. I'm not sure.
Um,
But I finally found a feed on Cinema HQ that actually played the real film.
Wow.
Just so you guys know, the Eternals dropped.
The Eternals is
yesterday.
on Disney Plus. I saw that today. When I went to watch the last episode of Boba Fett, I noticed it. But Ghostbusters: The Afterlife, obviously not as good as the original film.
Oh.
Nothing's really going to top that.
No.
I liked it better than Ghostbusters 2.
Really?
I thought it was a little bit better in Ghostbusters 2 and way better than the reboot 2016.
Yeah.
And like the problem with the reboot wasn't the women in it. I like all the actresses. I think they're all really funny actresses. It was a bad script, and it was too much like slapstick and running jokes that weren't funny the first time.
Yeah.
But they kept pushing that joke.
I think the funniest part of the 2016 was Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, he was great. He's got really good comic timing. I watched a video on YouTube the other day. It was a scene comparison, and it showed the original Ghostbusters film and how they introduced the proton packs versus how the proton packs are introduced in the 2016 reboot. And how, like in the original film, it's the three guys in the elevator. They make a joke about how they're unlicensed nuclear accelerators on their back. They turn it on, it makes the loud sound, and they shuffle over to the side as if that's going to save them from it. And that's the whole scene. And the scene was 23 seconds long or something like that. And the 2016 reboot was a 9-minute scene of them testing it in an alley with Melissa McCarthy being thrown all over the place, you know, because it's the slapsticky kind of comedy. And like that was kind of the thing, is like they tried too hard, I think, instead of just letting the comedy come naturally. Now, with Ghostbusters Afterlife, some of the things I liked about it, I liked that it wasn't in New York. So you got to see like you got to see the ghosts outside of the big city in a little small town. A lot of neat little surprises, a lot of fan service. They kind of make Ernie Hudson's version, his Ghostbuster character, look a little more important than he did in the original film.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and I like that too, that they did that for him. The kids in it are great. I mean, it's the one kid from Stranger Things,
Right.
you know, and they do a really nice tribute to Harold Ramis that was very, very well done.
Nice.
And it was fun, and a lot of callbacks to the original film, like with Zool and Gozer and all those things. So it was good. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. It had some funny moments. It wasn't like super aha funny like the original film, but you know, like any of the scenes with Paul Rudd in it usually were pretty funny. And they don't overuse him either. It's more about the kids. So if you get a chance to say it, I would check it out. It's pretty good.
So to segue out of this real quick,
Yeah.
there's something we haven't done the last couple weeks that we probably should have done.
What's that?
Is the Betty White?
Well, if you want to talk about who's passed,
Yeah.
We have a big three here, because you have Betty White passed last week, Sidney Poitier passed last week, and Bob Saget this week.
And don't forget John Madden.
And John Madden, yeah. Well, if you're just sticking to actors, then. Although John Madden wasn't in The Replacement, so I guess you could say he was an actor.
But he was in, he's in TV all the time and video games. So.
Yeah, Betty White, who was 99 years old and was looking forward to being 100. I think it was only like 2 weeks till her 100th birthday.
Yeah, something like that. Pretty close.
Yeah, it's coming up. It's like Monday or Tuesday or something.
Yeah, and I think there was like a petition going around for one of the TV networks to do her 100th birthday special anyway, even though she passed. I always love the thing that like Betty White has been around longer than sliced bread. The other one was Sidney Poitier, who is the first African-American actor to win a leading actor Oscar. He won it for the film Lilies of the Field in 1963. Very important actor, been some classic films like The Heat of the Night, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and my favorite film that he's in, of course, is Sneakers. I love Sneakers. It's one of my favorite films, and Sidney Poitier is great in it. And he was, I think he was like 90, 91, something. He was pretty old as well.
I forgot he was in it, but you also got him and Ben
Kingsley. And Robert Redford.
Ben Kingsley, Sidney Poitier, James Earl
River
Jones,
Phoenix,
David
I'm talking about like Oscar winning performances.
Dan Aykroyd, like it's a pretty decent cast.
Who's the blind guy? He was also
David Strathairn. Yeah, he's an Oscar nominated actor. So is Dan Aykroyd. He was nominated for supporting actor for Driving Miss Daisy.
Oh, how about that?
And then the last one is Bob Saget. He was 65 years old. No cause of death yet, but it said in the article I read that there was no like foul play or drug use or anything like that.
Right.
Based on the way they found him, it sounds like he most likely had like a heart attack or something.
Right.
I met Bob Saget. It's one of my few like celebrity stories that I can share. It was at my buddy Sal's bachelor party. So we were in Atlantic City. It was me, Sal, my cousin Gina, a bunch of other guys, you know, all like the big guys. And we're at the bar at the Sands Hotel, which isn't even there anymore.
No.
And we were sitting in the bar just waiting for some of the other guys to show up, and we're just, you know, bullshitting, having some drinks. And I look over at the bar and I see Joe Piscopo and Bob Saget. Joe Piscopo at the time had a comedy club at the Sands, and he would have a headliner every weekend. Bob Saget was the headliner that night. So we're all sitting there, and I look over and I go, "Hey guys, is that Bob Saget over there?" And he heard us and turned around and walked over to where we were sitting, and was like, "Hey guys, what's up?" And sat down and had a conversation with us.
Nice.
And it was funny because we're all talking to Bob Saget. We're getting all like excited.
Giddy.
And poor Joe Piscopo was standing off to the side waiting for somebody to notice him. So I saw him. I was like, "Hey guys, look, Joe Piscopo." And my cousin Gina got Bob Saget to sign a napkin for him. So we were trying to get Bob Saget to come to the bachelor party. We figured, based on the reputation he had as a stand-up and all that, we figured he'd be a lot of fun. But he was like, "Sorry guys, I got a show tonight. I'm doing at Joe's place, so we have to go get ready for it, all that stuff." And he's like, "You guys should just come to the show, though." He didn't offer us free tickets. We were like, "Oh, we'll see what we can do." So he's shaking our hands to say goodbye, and he goes, "I'd love to hang out with you guys some more, but I gotta go take a shit before I go on stage." And that was the last thing he said to us, and he left the room. So that was my Bob Saget story.
Nice.
So going back now to the main segment for this evening.
Yes.
As I said in the show open, we're talking about villains we root for. So in this case, we're not talking about villains that we like or villains that, we can't wait to see on screen or anything like that. We're actually talking about people who we want them to succeed, even though they're not really the hero of the story. So I'm just going to give this one as an example, even though it's a little further down the list. It's Danny Ocean and the rest of the crew in Ocean's 11.
Bunch of thieves.
Yeah, they're a bunch of thieves. You have George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, Bernie Mac, all these different guys that are just, you like them because they're charismatic. You like them because they're handsome. You like them because they're funny. And you like them because they're the guys that you're following in the film. And you know that the reason he's doing it is to get Julia Roberts back and all that stuff. But essentially, they're thieves. They are knocking off a casino, stealing people's money, whatever it might be. But because they're likable and because they're charismatic and all that, you follow them in the film.
And also, they're knocking off a casino. Who cares? Casinos have been robbing guys like us blind for years.
Well, it doesn't help. Like they have to make Andy Garcia's character as douchey as possible too. So
true enough.
You put him in an ascot.
Put him in an ascot and have him treat Julia Roberts like crap. I mean, she's America's sweetheart. So getting to our actual list here, then that was just my example. The first one I have on the list here, and this is in no particular order. This is not like a top 10 or anything like that. These are just like names that came to me as I was trying to think up the list. And the first one that popped in my head, and it's only because of the series that I just finished watching, a few months ago, and that's Loki.
Yeah, because I don't think you can root for him in most of the movies.
No, if you think about it, he's the reason for the destruction of New York in the Avengers film.
Yes.
Because he sided with Thanos and he brought the army to Earth and all that.
So you can kind of root for him in Ragnarok.
But that's what I'm saying. Like over the course of the films, he becomes more likable. He's charismatic, and and a lot of it has to do with the way Tom Hiddleston plays him.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the series, in the series he becomes the hero, and it's sort of like you're rooting for him to turn over a new leaf. And he becomes sort of a redeemed character, if you will, especially after sacrificing himself in Infinity War.
Hey, Kev.
Yeah.
I saw you write 21 on. Look at 12.
Yeah, I have that on right.
Damn it. All right.
Well, we can put down the ones that Megan told you earlier.
Yeah.
But that was it. So that's an example of what I'm talking about here with Loki, is a character who was the villain, but sort of either became a redeemed character or was just somebody who was likable because of how the actor played him, etc. Probably a really good example of this is number 2, which was also suggested to us by one of our listeners, iCush1911. Real name is Kush.
Kush. Yeah, it's Kush. Yeah. Hey, Kush.
Hey, Kush out there. Yeah, he
Thanks for listening.
He suggested Don Corleone, who is number 2 on my list of characters we root for. Now, I said with the Godfather, you could kind of like pick any character. It could be Don Corleone, it could be Michael.
Definitely Michael.
It's not Fredo. You can't pick Fredo.
It's not
no
Fredo,
one roots for Fredo.
You feel bad for Fredo.
You feel bad for Fredo. And maybe Sonny. I don't know if you can really root for Sonny because he's such an asshole. But you definitely root for Don Corleone. You definitely root for Michael Corleone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you want to see them succeed. You want to see the family succeed. But when you think about it, they're mobsters. Like nothing they're doing is illegal.
No.
I was pulling for Mo Green.
Mo Green. Yeah. I made my bones when you were banging cheerleaders. What are you doing, Michael? You don't talk to a man like Mo Green like that.
Never take sides.
Never take sides against the family. And that's the reason to cheer for him is that whole family thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the way they weave it together to make it more like it's about the family and not about the crimes they commit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything they do is for the family, even though what they do is ruthless and underhanded at times. And you know, make your sister a widow and the day that her child is baptized.
Leave the gun. Take the cannolis.
How's that thing with Carlo? Oh, Carlo, you ain't gonna see him no more. So yeah, The Godfather, and that brings me to another legendary mob movie, in which the characters are low down and despicable. But hey, if they pull off that Lufthansa heist, you're just as happy as Ray Liotta in the shower. And so I am talking about the Goodfellas.
Well, it tells you why you like them in the movie. It's not like they're really stealing. It's like they're just doing a little more extra.
Yeah,
they're working a little harder.
They're not those, they're not those schlubs who go to work every day. You know, he says it's about the lifestyle and it's about the attraction of that lifestyle. Again, pick a character. Like for me, it's like Henry Hill is the guy you follow in the film. He's kind of the guy you root for.
Mm-hmm.
You know what he does at the end, ratting everybody out. You kind of like side with the other characters at that point because they're the ones getting ratted out. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the rules: was never telling your friends. You can side with De Niro's character because he's so charismatic in the film. I was a big fan of the Joe Pesci character, and he's the fucking worst out of all of them. He's the worst one out of all of them.
I rooted for Spider.
Dance for me, Spider.
I hope he can dance his ass off.
I rooted for Paulie,
yeah.
Paul. To be a sin. We got the Paul.
The Paul. You gotta hack it out. The thing that makes me laugh is and this kind of is one of the reasons that I love that Tommy DeVito character so much that Joe Pesci plays is when he beats the shit out of Billy Batts in Henry Hill's dining, his diner that he owns. They beat the shit out of him and he goes, "I'm sorry, Henry. I'm sorry. I never meant to get blood on your floors." That's what he's apologizing for. Not that he killed a maid guy. But yeah, that's there's your example, man. Like just they're despicable characters, but you love them anyway. Same thing if we're sticking to the mobster genre, The Usual Suspects.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Again, these are thieves, these are criminals, but you're kind of hoping they succeed just because of all this mystery behind who the villain really is.
And they really portray the detectives and the cops and everybody in the villainous light, So
yeah, like the way they treat there's that opening scene where Gabriel Byrne's character is trying to go legit, and the cops walk in the middle of the business meeting he's having and start chiding him about his criminal past in front of the people he's trying to do business with.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just such a great film in the sense that you're pulling for these guys, and then holy shit, one of them is Kaiser Soze.
Yeah.
But something about him escaping at the end.
Yeah.
And Chaz Palminteri's character running out of the station looking for him and looking so confused is kind of satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
that reminds me of another one that's not on the list.
Who?
Oh, it's just in the movie Pulp Fiction.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
A lot of the characters, that was too, like
most of them.
Travolta and Jackson's characters, especially.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
the mom.
Willis's character.
Bruce Willis's character is despicable, but you kind of pull for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's another one. Like pretty much every character in this film. I had another one on the top of my head there, and I forgot what it was now. Oh, this is not a movie. This is a TV show, but Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And you kind of pull for Walter until like the end when he really becomes like the diabolical villain that he is.
Mm-hmm.
But up until then, you're kind of like pulling for him to get away with it.
I've noticed there's a lot of TV shows that's that way nowadays. You got like Dexter,
It's the anti-hero
Blacklist.
character. Yeah.
Stuff like
I love Blacklist.
Yeah.
I watch the shit out of that show, and the character that James Spader plays in the film Reddington.
Mm-hmm.
Horrible person. But god damn it, when he wins, you're like, yeah.
Nice.
But getting back to movies, I threw this one on here. It's a very recent one, and I put it down as the new film because it's definitely not the cartoon version of the character.
Mm-hmm.
That is the Cruella movie that just came out.
Disney seems to be doing that a lot with their villains.
Yeah, giving them like a sympathetic backstory.
Yeah. I have not watched Cruella yet, so.
Well, for me, again, like I said, a lot of it has to do with the actress,
Yeah.
with Emma Stone. So, but yeah, and I agree. Like they seem to be doing that with their villains, like these like sympathetic backstories.
Yep.
Have either of you seen this film? This is a kind of like a obscure film from the 90s that has like a cult following. It's called Falling Down.
No.
Oh yeah, I love that one.
Stars
Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas. The character he plays, his name is William Foster. It's basically like a 90s film about, like depression and anxiety and just having enough of it all. And like the 90s version of what that would be, which is this guy goes on a psychotic killing spree. But it's basically like he's had enough of like traffic and other people's bullshit and the crime that you see in the streets. And so one day, like he's stuck in traffic and he just has a nervous breakdown and gets out of his car, leaves the car on the road and just wanders off.
Yeah.
And then as he's like walking through the city, he's like killing these gangsters that try to like mug him, and he takes a bat out and beats the shit out of them. And then he finds a guy who's a neo-Nazi who's trying to like, poison people, and he kills him. And like, so he just like goes around the city and like takes out his frustration.
He goes to McDonald's wanting to get breakfast, and it's like 3 minutes past the time that they stop serving, and he loses his shit. He just wants
just wants an egg McMuffin.
Yeah. And then he's traveling across a golf course, and the people who are at the golf course are like giving him a hard time because he's crossing, and he goes, I'm just crossing,
And but it's like a guy who's just he's at his the wit's end with all the shit that he's been putting up with, and it's one of those films. If I had thought about it sooner, it could have been on the list of films that couldn't be made today, because it is definitely not a politically correct film. I mean, he gets his comeuppance at the end of it, but like up until then, you're like, yeah, man, like I understand where you're coming from. Like, yeah, fuck those neo-Nazis. Like, yeah, give me. I would do if I wanted pancakes and was only 3 minutes past breakfast time. So like you kind of like know where the guy's coming from, but really, not really somebody you should be admiring. The Predator. I put this one on there.
Yeah,
I actually do cheer for the Predator.
Oh, you actually the Predator itself.
The Predator itself. In the original film, the other movies suck. The original film with Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers and all those guys. Like I root for the Predator because he's so badass. And it's like those other guys, just a bunch of muscle bound, roided up macho men. Get down. Enter the chopper.
Enter the chopper. It's not a tumor.
I mean, it's probably a stretch there. I don't really think that's the villain you should be rooting for, but I can't help it. Wile E. Coyote.
Super.
Oh
genius.
no, he just needs something.
I root for the Coyote.
Yeah.
I hate the Roadrunner.
Mhm.
Even when I was a kid, I hated the Roadrunner.
Here's a
I
wanted
wanted
story
the
for you,
Coyote
Lee.
to catch him so bad.
Yeah, Lee, here's a funny story.
Mm.
Looney Tunes. Adrian hates Tweety. She
Tweety
roots for
bird.
Sylvester. She can't stand that bird. She roots for Sylvester.
I'm the same way with Tom and Jerry. I really hope Tom catches that fucking mouse one day.
Because she says, because Tweety's a condescending little fucking bird. She didn't say fucking, but a condescending bird.
It's weird the things you think about when you get older.
Mhm.
But I was always pulling for the Coyote, and I always bring up Family Guy. There's a Family Guy skit where the Coyote finally catches the Roadrunner, and he kills it and eats it, and then has a nervous breakdown because he doesn't know what to do with the rest of his life. He's been chasing after him for so long. Now that he caught him, he doesn't know what to do. Patrick Swayze in Point Break.
Yeah, a little.
I mean,
See it.
he's the villain, but even the guy that's your hero, Johnny Utah, played by Keanu Reeves, lets him go. He lets him go at the end.
Utah, give me 2.
He lets him go at the end, shoots his gun up in the air,
Isn't that the whole basis of like the Fast and Furious movies with Vin Diesel and Paul Walker? They let you go.
Well, Paul Walker was the cop who was supposed to be taking him down in the first film, and then ends up being partners with him in the other 18 that he did with him before he, unfortunately got killed.
Have nothing to do with the first movie.
Yeah. It's about family.
The family.
That's why it's so comparable to The Godfather. Next one I have here. I'm gonna take a look at the user submissions here, and then we'll go back to our list in a minute, because I think we might have skipped a few here. My wife gave me the submission of Severus Snape in the Harry Potter films.
Was he really a villain?
He's not. Well, he's not quite the villain. He's just disliked. He's a disliked character.
I look at it this way. I didn't start pulling for him until after I knew the secret behind what he was doing.
Okay.
Like after you find out that Dumbledore asked him to kill him, and that he was a double agent working for Dumbledore, and that he was in love with Lily Potter, and always, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
After going back and rewatching the films now, now I'm cheering for Snape.
Yeah.
But at the beginning,
But in the first several movies, he's more like the asshole teacher.
Yeah, he's not really an antagonist.
He's not
then
really
again, Harry Potter is being the asshole student. So
yes, he is being the asshole student.
Yeah, it's that thing I was talking about earlier. Yeah, as you get older, you start relating to different characters more.
Talking to teachers about asshole teachers, huh?
So I'm gonna do a double comparison here. So, Howard, friend of the show, submitted the Joker. Now, I'm assuming he's talking about the Heath Ledger Joker.
Really?
I would think. And then I have on the villains who may be right is the Joaquin Phoenix rendition of the Joker.
Yeah, I can't see you rooting for.
Well, that's what I said. Like, I don't look at it as, when I was putting the list together, I wasn't looking at it as villains who I just wanted to see on screen.
Yeah, that would be.
Joker was like, when he wasn't on screen, I was less interested in the film.
Right.
So I wasn't necessarily cheering for him. I was just cheering to see more of him.
Yeah.
Whereas the Joaquin Phoenix version of the Joker, I think, is the Joker you can kind of root for, because he's like, he's a guy who's been abused. He's got mental problems. He's, been shit on a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to go to the extremes that he goes to, but you can understand like where he's coming from.
Well, from that one, I'm going to jump to one of the ones I put on the list. Harley Quinn.
Harley Quinn.
Yeah, she's a villain that you have to root for.
I root for her because Margot Robbie is hot as hell.
But you still root for her in the movies, even if it wasn't Margot.
Yeah, Harley Quinn. Well, because Harley Quinn is like, you kind of feel bad for her.
Yeah.
she's a villain by proxy because she was,
Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm syndrome. She was duped by the Joker. But she's also like a fun character too.
Yeah. But since we're talking about Joker, we might talk about Harley.
Harley Quinn.
But she is a.
We got a great one here. So your cousin Tim, there, Kev.
Yeah.
Cousin Tim wrote in Tom Hanks in The Road to Perdition.
Yeah. No, that's a really good one. I probably really thought of that one. Yeah.
He's a hitman.
Yep.
You're sympathetic for him because the storyline has to be with his family being killed and all that. So his motivation is revenge.
Right.
But when he comes down to it, he was a killer for hire.
Yeah. That's kind of the same way you feel towards, say, Billy the Kid and the Regulators in Young Guns.
Yeah.
They start off as decent kids working for
Billy the Kid had a reputation before that.
Oh.
But they were essentially working as sort of like deputies at the beginning when they were the Regulators, and then eventually became outlaws because they went on the hunt for the guy that killed their mentor and all that.
Yeah.
But that's a good one. Yeah, I didn't have that on the list, but Young Guns, yeah. Billy the Kid and all those guys. The next one I have on my list is Robert De Niro in Heat.
You can say De Niro in a lot of movies.
Yeah. But Heat's a good one because he's a thief, he's a murderer, but he has some sort of like weird code that makes you kind of relate to him, and like you want to see him kind of succeed at the end, but he knows he's not going to succeed, and that's where you get that showdown with Al Pacino at the end of the film.
Let's go De Niro and Taxi Driver.
That's one that kind of like walks the line. You're not quite sure because he's so unstable, and that's the thing with Taxi Drivers. At the end, you don't know if what he goes through at the end actually happened or not.
Right.
It was all in his mind. Like it's a very ambiguous ending. The one that Kevin was trying to sneak on the list, but I already had on there. Brad Pitt / Ed Norton as Tyler Durden in Fight Club.
Yep. Wait a minute. We don't talk about Fight Club. Let's move on.
Yes. First rule of Fight Club is we don't talk about Fight Club. Second rule of Fight Club, you don't talk about Fight Club. Now it's hard to like explain though, because unless if you haven't seen the film, spoiler alert, they're the same person.
Yeah.
And it's neat when you get to that point at the end and they show you all the flashback scenes of him acting as Tyler Durden, but not remembering that he was acting as Tyler Durden. But yeah, it's essentially like they're combined the villain of the film, but you're rooting for him because why not? It's called Fight Club. And then at the end they blow up an entire city. And it's like, was I rooting for a terrorist this whole time? Yeah, I think I was rooting for a terrorist.
I think that was it. Yeah.
I threw this one in. I don't know.
It's a funny way of thinking about it.
It's a funny way of thinking about it because he doesn't really know he's the villain, but in a way he kind of is. And it's John Hammond, who is the character that Richard Attenborough plays in Jurassic Park. It's bad, no expense.
Yeah, but all the scientists were telling him he was wrong.
All the scientists were telling him he was wrong, except for the ones working for him, of course.
No, even the one working for him, because that was the lawyer that wanted it.
I brought you people here to support me, and only the blood-sucking lawyer is the only one on my side. But like, yeah, he doesn't know he's the villain. It's just he's trying to do this thing that's impossible.
He's trying to be the Walt Disney of dinosaurs.
Yeah. And not really considering, like Laura Dern's character, I think, says it the best. She says, "You have plants in here that you put in here just because they look nice, but they're poisonous and don't belong in the century and all that stuff." So like he's an unwitting villain, but he's so lovable. It's like this old like grandfatherly character.
Grandfather's Santa Claus.
He was Santa Claus, damn it.
Yeah, he was Santa, but like you feel bad for him a little bit. It's like, oh, poor John Hammond spent all that money, spared no expense. I'm going to go back to one of the user suggestions here. I'm going to go back to Tim's list because Tim had a lot of them that he submitted for us. So you had Road to Perdition, He also gave us Venom,
which I have
Okay.
on the list too.
which I think we have on our list too.
Yep.
And this is a good one. Nicolas Cage and Holly Hunter in Raising Arizona. So yes, they are.
They are. They've stolen a child.
He's a con, an ex-con. She's a
She's
cop,
ex-cop.
but they get married. They can't have kids, so they steal one.
Well, they had more than they could handle.
Well, they had 5 kids, so they stole the
That's
5th
right.
one, figuring they could deal without it. And so they hired Tex Cobb to go after them. And
Where would you guys put natural born killers on this list?
what's that?
Where would you put natural born killers on this list?
You know what? That's it's not one that I would have thought of, but it probably would fit on there. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's people out there who love that movie and who kind of root for the Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis characters.
Mm-hmm.
They're like the Thelma and Louise of
well, Thelma and
mass
Louise.
murders.
Thelma and Louise would be good
Yep.
suggestions on here. You have to think like
Mhm.
they killed a guy, they were thieves and all that stuff. They were doing it because it was fun. And then they drive off the cliff at the end. So those are some good ones that we didn't have on the list already.
Butch Cassidy, Sundance Kid.
But that comes out, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid's another one.
Mhm.
And you have to think of it like the reason these characters are villains that we root for is because you don't really realize they're the villains. They play them sort of like.
Oh, the ultimate one would be Robin Hood.
Mhm.
He's technically the villain.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
By society at that time, he was the villain.
Oh.
No.
Prince John.
No, it was Alan Rickman's version of the Sheriff of Nottingham. You come to my room at 10:30. You 10:45, and bring a
friend.
Why a spoon, cousin? Because it's blunt. It'll hurt more.
I saw some website.
Cancel Christmas.
I saw some website say that Hans Gruber was a villain they rooted for.
Somebody put it on the suggestion list, and I left it off there because I'm like, no, he's not a villain you root for.
He's not a villain. No.
He's a villain you like seeing on screen because he's charismatic, but you're not rooting for him.
No.
Then I thought about it more. And I'm like, all they're doing is stealing stocks and bonds from a rich guy. You kind of want to see. In the same way, you can say the guys from Reservoir Dogs. Like, you'd like to see them kind of get away with the crime at the end, even though they're criminals. You'd like to see it, but then, everything gets fucked up at the end of the movie.
It's like Bane.
Somebody had Bane on here. Who put Bane? Kush was one of his suggestions, was Bane.
Yeah.
His suggestions are very like superhero based. We got Magneto, Thanos, the hyenas, and the Lion King.
Who's for the hyenas?
At the end, when they go after Scar,
everybody roots for the hyenas.
At the end.
He has the Sandman.
Okay, Sandman, I could say, yeah, he's sympathetic.
Bane, Don Corleone, and Jigsaw Killer in Saw.
Well, that one's a little bit shocking. I don't think I would.
Yeah, that was a little. That's a little stretching it there.
He wrote in his submission, "This might be a controversial choice," and I would have to agree. I think I don't see myself rooting for the Jigsaw Killer.
No.
You know who I would root for, and it's only because over the course of the films, the character changed a little bit, and that was Freddy Krueger. So, like in the first Nightmare on Elm Street film, he was downright scary and murderous and all that. But by like the third, fourth film, he was comic relief as well. Going back to my list, I have Valjean from Les Miserables.
That was. Well, I know he was a criminal, but was he actually the villain of the story, or was the cop the villain of the story?
The cop was the villain of the story.
Cop was just doing his job.
But that's the thing. Like he was so dedicated to the law that he became villainous because of it.
Yeah.
Right. The only true crime he ever committed was singing the way he sang.
That's Russell Crowe's crime. That's not Javert's crime. That's whoever decided to put Russell Crowe in that role.
And not voicing over the singing part.
But like Valjean, like I said, he's a thief. He was violent at the beginning.
Yeah.
He steals a child. He's on the run the whole movie. He keeps changing his name and running and like hiding from the law and stuff like that. So I mean, he's a criminal throughout most of the film.
Yeah. But he's a thief because he stole bread.
Yes. And broke a window pane.
He's just he's sympathetic towards his cause.
My sister's child was starving and we were close to death. You will starve again unless you learn the meaning of the law. I remember watching, I think it was in Everything Wrong with Video from Cinema Sins for Les Miserables. Like, oh, it's one of these musicals, isn't it? There's like everything is sung, even like the most minuscule word.
Well, if you're going to focus on musicals, you might as well throw the Phantom up there.
And he is next on the list.
Ah, there you go. I'm not reading lists.
Apparently not.
This is the same guy who forgot we drink on this show.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean,
that COVID, not to read.
That COVID virus is really kicking him in the ass.
No, man, it's that Rona. So yes, next on the list is the Phantom from Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, I can see how. In some ways,
he's killed people.
No. He is definitely the villain.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see how you can root for some things he does.
Well, you feel bad because you know that he's deformed and he
can't get the girl.
You know,
I had a friend, always the last one picked in dodgeball.
I had a friend growing up who was obsessed with Phantom of the Opera, and it pissed her off to no end that Christine goes with the other guy at the end of the film, at the end of the play, and I'm like,
Raoul.
That's the story. Like, yeah, the Vie de Camp. Was this you, Mike Kronk from the Emperor's New Groove?
Yes, he's the villain in the movie, but you love him.
The villain is Yzma.
He's a henchman of the villain.
Kronk is just a victim of circumstance.
He's a goon, isn't he? A sidekick?
He's her sidekick, her goon, yeah. But he's
wrong lever, Kronk.
I speak squirrel. Squeaker, squeakum, squeaker, squeakum. Do you ever notice the scene where he pitches a tent? It's a scene they're sleeping at night and she's in like the big tent and he's laying on the ground and he's just got a little tiny tent that's covering his crotch.
Yes, he pitched the tent.
He's pitching the tent. Frank Hummel in The Rock. That is
Nicolas Cage's character.
No.
Isn't
that Ed Harris's character?
Ed Harris?
That's Ed Harris.
Ed Harris's character, yeah.
So I mean, like, yeah, what's his motivation? I haven't seen The Rock in a while, so I can't like.
He was doing it for a friend.
Something
who died. He was at the funeral, and he's like, "Don't worry, brother. I'm not going to let this go." And met, and I don't know. There was a lot of rain.
Yeah,
things happened.
Yeah, I don't remember too much from that. I do remember that there is some like element of what he's doing that you kind of like feel for him a little bit. I don't know if he's the guy I root for though. I root for Sean Connery's character, but he, because he's the criminal who escaped from Alcatraz. I'm gonna go back to the user suggestions. Excuse me. That fucking Rona.
Bless you.
Your friend Tooch, Kev.
Yes.
She put down Buffalo Bill.
From Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm rooting for Buffalo Bill.
Well, kind of.
I assume she meant because it's one of those characters that people love to imitate.
Yeah.
It puts the lotion on the skin or else it gets the hairs again. But I mean, you're not rooting for him to skin the women and wear them as clothing or tuck it back.
Would you do me? I'd do me.
I'd do me so hard. You don't know what pain is.
Yeah. No.
She a great big fat lady. Yeah, he's not somebody I root for, but he's definitely a character that I enjoy on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Probably not as much as Hannibal, obviously, but just as entertaining a villain.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Colleen on here, cousin Neen. She gave us Loki, which we talked about already.
Right.
Megamind.
Oh, that's a great one.
So Megamind is a animated film. Megamind is voiced by Will Ferrell. And the hero character in the film is voiced by Brad Pitt. I know that.
Yeah.
And he's like the villain fighting Brad Pitt's character. But then he tries to turn, like, I've only watched this movie once, but I know it's like the movie focuses on him as the main character, so you sort of understand why he's the villain after a while and all that stuff.
I think he tries to. I would say that he's trying to not be the bad guy all the time. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, to this extent, it's almost like Wreck-It Ralph. You know. You're a bad guy, but doesn't mean you're a bad guy. You know.
What's it? I'm bad, but that doesn't mean I'm not good. I think somebody had Wreck-It Ralph on there as a suggestion, and I wasn't sure about it. But yeah, like that's kind of like, you know, a loose villain there, I would say. Neen also gave us the Boondock Saints. When you kind of look at it, like they're killers, they're murderers,
vigilantes,
yeah. But hell, they're charismatic.
Yeah.
We have Venom, which was suggested by Tim, but we also had on our list. Venom's like the anti-hero character. It's weird because in the comics, he started out as just a straight up villain.
He was a straight up villain, yeah.
And then sort of became that anti-hero character over time because he was such a popular character among the readers. And then the film with Tom Hardy plays him as the anti-hero from the beginning. He's not, you know, villainous really.
Doesn't he become like an agent? Isn't he Agent Venom or something in some
I know
iteration of the comics?
Eventually, at some point, they introduce a whole army of like symbiotes, and he like protects the Earth from them.
Oh, okay.
There's Carnage. There's one called Carnage. There's one called like Poison or something like that. And there's like all these like different iterations. There's one called Anti-Venom, which is he looks like Venom, but the colors are opposite. He's white with a black spider on his thing. Next on the list we have is Kylo Ren.
Kind of want him to turn to the good side, especially after the second movie in the fight with Rey. He's fighting
I think it's what it is. Like the first movie, you know, he's Han Solo's son. You kind of know. You don't know too much about why he turned. He kills Han Solo, and you're like, God, I hate this guy. But then, yeah, the second movie makes him a little more sympathetic, and by the third movie, like you know that there's a redemption arc to his story,
right?
And so, like you're pulling for him to be redeemed. And then there's that in the last film. There's that scene where he's speaking to Han Solo's ghost or the image of Han Solo's ghost or whatever it is. And, you know, he kind of, that becomes his redeeming moment. Yeah, in a way, you can kind of say you're pulling for him. How about Darth Vader? Would he be like a villain you root for?
No, not really.
Yeah. He's just a villain I'd like to see on the screen, especially when he's filled with wine.
It's like Palpatine. I'm rooting for Palpatine.
Unlimited power.
You know when we missed, don't you?
What's that?
Gru from Despicable Me.
He was more entertaining as a villain, I thought. When he becomes the good guy, I lose interest. I like the other guy. What's his name? Vector.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So we got all the user suggestions in, I think. Oh, we got two of them I have on the villains who may be right list, not so much like villains that you cheer for.
Yeah.
So we can talk about those in a minute here. Anybody else we can think of for our list here? I know we had a few that we thought of, you know, as we were talking.
Yeah.
it was fun putting the list together, but it was a lot more difficult than I thought. Because I was trying to like keep into those parameters of these are not villains that we just enjoy seeing on screen. They're villains that we're actually pulling for in the film.
The first couple are easy to like, come off the top of your head, but some of those, like, ones you should think of, like we said, Sundance.
Yeah, like Godfather, Goodfellas, those were easy ones. Ocean's 11 was an easy one. When I got down to like the Phantom, that was one that I had to think about, but it popped in my head at one point. The John Hammond one I put in there because I just thought it was funny. But yeah, when we thought about like Butch and Sundance or the guys in Young Guns,
I mean, I'll tell you honestly, I was kind of rooting for the iceberg in Titanic.
You also got like movies like The Sting and The Color of Money. You know, con movies.
All those movies, Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah.
Jared in the Labyrinth.
Jared in the Labyrinth. The Nothing and Never Ending.
Take the baby. Just take the baby. I want him to have the baby.
He was doing a better job taking care of it than that girl was. I had one in the top of my head till you said the Jared thing, and then I just totally forgot about it. Oh shit! It's gonna torture me now that I can't think of it.
Talk about the baby.
I got it. Clint Eastwood in Unforgiven. So like he's a guy who like left the criminal life and was living as a family man and gets pulled back into it, and before you know it, he's back to his murderous ways. But you're kind of cheering for him because the sheriff character that Gene Hackman plays is even worse than he is. So,
well, technically, all those dirty cop movies like Dirty Harry and all those kind of movies, those are
a lot of those
technically are villains.
Even like the spaghetti western films with Clint Eastwood.
Yeah,
he's the outlaw with no name.
Outlaw Jesse Wells. Full of dollars.
Yeah, a lot of those western films like that. It's always like they romanticize the outlaw. Yeah. So the last thing I have here is a little bonus section, and it's villains, not really villains we root for, but villains who may have been right.
So because the coffee mug says it doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah, not necessarily villains who we liked or root for, whatever, but they just might have been right. So like I already brought up the Joaquin Phoenix rendition of the Joker.
Yeah.
That you kind of sympathize with the fact that he was a mentally ill man who just wasn't really getting the support that he needed. I put Thanos on there just because I wouldn't have thought of it if it didn't become like a running line in the Hawkeye series, where he'd wander around and you'd see graffiti written on the wall that said Thanos was right.
Well, you know what? I go with the meme with Falcon with that. Why don't you just bring more resources?
Yeah,
that'd be better.
Yeah. Like if you're gonna snap your finger because there's not enough resources for the universe, snap your finger to bring more resources. Yeah,
you gotta do better.
It's the same thing I said with the Doctor Strange thing last week. Like all he had to do was reword it to, can we just make people forget about what Mysterio said? But yeah, like it's funny to think like in real life that there would probably be people walking around going, "I wish Thanos had succeeded." There's some people out there would be happy that half the population was like, wiped away.
Well, when I'm in traffic in the morning,
I am Angry Man. This one you have to say you agree with me on this one. That's Killmonger in Black Panther.
I agree with his thought processes, just not the way he did shit.
Well, I mean that's the point. Is they're the villain for a reason.
Yeah.
Because the way they did things. But yeah, like his philosophy was one that you can kind of appreciate.
Yeah.
Roy Batty, who is the character that Rutger Hauer plays in the Blade Runner. I mean, all he wanted was just to live a life outside of the life he had, which was basically as a slave.
Yep.
And have a long life and not just this limited one that was given to him by his creators. Magneto.
Yeah, Magneto has he's got the right idea, just the wrong way of going about it.
I think of it, it's like it's similar to the Thanos thing. Like, there's you understand his message, but it's his actions that make him the villain.
Though his actions are brought about because of how he was brought up too.
which is Nazi Germany, which is
Nazi Germany's a Jew.
Another motivating factor. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saved this one for last because it's my favorite one. I talked to you guys in the pre-show about this. Ed Rooney, who is the principal in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. When you're growing up, you relate to Ferris Bueller. As you start getting older, you relate to Cameron because you're anxious and tired and done with it all. And then when you get to be our age, you're most likely going to relate to the principal because that Ferris Bueller kid's an asshole.
unless your teacher doesn't like your principal. So
no, but I do feel for the character because I'm like, he's just trying to do his job. This kid's skirting the rules and doing what he wants, and he's so popular. He never gets in trouble. I don't condone him going to the kid's house and breaking in, nor do I condone the fact that the actor Jeffrey Jones was put in prison for child pornography. Makes him less sympathetic. We lost Kevin. There's Kevin. Lost you there for a sec.
That was my battery's at 10%. So.
Okay, well that is the last name on our list anyway, so I can pause it. All right. So thank you for joining us this evening for episode 44. I don't even know if I said that at the beginning or not. If this was episode 44, I did. Episode 44. I don't know. I'm drinking wine that is 19% alcohol by volume, so I'm feeling good right now. So thank you for joining us for episode 44, Villains That We Root For. And thank you for those of us out there who gave us some submissions for this episode. We hope to have some more opportunities in the future for people to submit some things to the show that we can put in there.
We're going to make it interactive, like Black Mirror.
I would love to make it interactive. In fact, if you listen to the show on Spotify, I occasionally add a question to the show notes. That if you're listening to it on Spotify, you can answer the question, and I'll see it on my end when I'm doing the review of it. So take a look at that if you want. If you want to see some, see how good looking we are when we're recording our shows, make sure you check out the live YouTube recording.
That ain't creepy at all, Kevin.
So this was Villains That We Root For. Join us next week for episode 45. 45. Wow. For episode 45, we're going to be doing a little deep dive into the MCU and DCEU. If you had been listening to us from the beginning, very, very early on, I think it was episode 2, actually, either 2 or 3, something like that.
Yeah.
We did a history of superhero films, and so we didn't necessarily talk about the MCU, DCEU in general. We talked about all superhero films from the beginning of Hollywood till now. This is going to be simply about the movies related to the Marvel Studio films and DC Studio films. So join us next week for episode 45, MCU versus DCEU. Again, drop us a line at filmsandfermentation@gmail.com. Visit us on Instagram at filmsandfermentation or on Facebook at facebook.com/filmsandfermentation. Look out for some more user submission elements. I might be putting a few more in here from time to time. And again, thanks for listening. I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
Join us again next week. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as we enjoyed recording it for you. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.